U.S. President Donald Trump spoke to Russia's President Vladimir Putin on Monday about peace in Ukraine after Washington said there was an impasse over ending Europe's deadliest conflict since World War II and that the United States may have to walk away. Putin sent tens of thousands of troops into Ukraine in February 2022, triggering the gravest confrontation between Russia and the West since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. Trump, who says he wants to be remembered as a peacemaker, had repeatedly called for an end to the bloodbath in Ukraine, which his administration casts as a proxy war between the United States and Russia. Under pressure from Trump, delegates from the warring countries met last week in Istanbul, Turkey, for the first time since 2022, after Putin proposed direct talks and Europeans and Ukraine demanded an immediate ceasefire. A White House official said the call was underway. Putin was speaking from Russia's Black Sea resort of Sochi while Trump was in Washington. Shortly before the call, U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters that Washington recognized there was an impasse in ending the war, and that if Moscow was not willing to engage, then eventually the U.S. would have to say it was not its war. We realize there's a bit of an impasse here, and I think the president's going to say to President Putin, "Look, are you serious? Are you real about this?" Vance said as he prepared to depart from Italy. "I think honestly that President Putin, he doesn't quite know how to get out of the war," Vance said, adding that he had just spoken to Trump. He said it takes two to tango. "I know the president's willing to do that, but if Russia is not willing to do that, then we're eventually just going to say, this is not our war. We're going to try to end it, but if we can't end it, we're eventually going to say, you know what, that was worth a try, but we're not doing anymore." Putin, whose forces control a fifth of Ukraine and are advancing, has stood firm on his conditions for ending the war, despite public and private pressure from Trump and repeated warnings from European powers. On Sunday, Russia launched its largest drone attack on Ukraine since the start of the war. Ukraine's intelligence service said it also believed Moscow intended to fire an intercontinental ballistic missile on Sunday, though there was no confirmation from Russia that it had done so. In June 2024, Putin said Ukraine must officially drop its NATO ambitions and withdraw its troops from the entire territory of the 4 Ukrainian regions Russia claims. On Sunday, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer discussed Russia's war against Ukraine with leaders of the United States, Italy, France, and Germany, a Downing Street spokesperson said. President Putin must show he wants peace by accepting the 30-day unconditional ceasefire proposed by President Trump and backed by Ukraine and Europe, French President Emmanuel Macron said on social media after Sunday's call.